Look at the roof of the world today. You see a seemingly permanent monument, millions of tons of ice and rock, frozen in time. But that permanence is an illusion. The Himalayas aren't a static fixture of the Earth's crust. They are an active, highly pressurized geologic engine, growing taller as we speak. To understand how this massive structure gets built, we must rewind the clock over 50 million years. Back then, the Himalayas didn't exist. In fact, India was an island, separated from the Eurasian continent by a massive, deep body of water called the Tethys Ocean. The highest, driest peaks on our planet were born directly from the violent, slow-motion destruction of that ancient sea. For tens of millions of years, the Indian plate sprinted northward across the Tethys Ocean, charting a direct collision course with the Eurasian landmass. As it advanced, the dense Tethys seafloor was shoved downward, sliding underneath the Eurasian plate in a process called subduction. Pushed into the hot mantle, the crust melted, sending superheated plumes of magma to the surface to forge a massive volcanic chain along Asia. This relentless recycling of the ocean floor acted like a giant geological conveyor belt. It built up immense kinetic momentum, setting the stage for a mechanical impact the Earth's crust couldn't simply absorb. Between 25 and 20 million years ago, the ocean was gone, and the hard collision began. The actual thick continental crust of India finally slammed into the continental crust of Asia. Continental crust is highly buoyant. Neither landmass could sink. The energy had nowhere to go but up. Extreme pressure squeezed the superheated, semi-liquid crust outward and upward. Reaching the surface, this rock hardened, splintered, and stacked like a snowplow, forming a critical wedge. Because neither continent could go down, the crust had to structurally fail. It folded, fractured, and stacked itself into the highest elevation on the planet. As this rock stacked higher and higher, the mountains eventually reached altitudes extreme enough to physically pierce the atmosphere. By about 10 million years ago, this towering wall of rock became a massive barrier, directly standing in the path of moisture-rich monsoon winds blowing north from the Indian Ocean. This triggered a massive rain shadow. The monsoons dumped their water on the steep southern slopes, leaving the northern side completely deprived of rain. While the southern face endured heavy erosion from torrential rivers, the Tibetan side dried out. Its rivers lost their power, erosion essentially shut down, and the land transformed into a barren, high-altitude plateau. The Himalayas act as a massive geological weather machine, dictating the climate and water supply for billions of people today. But this collision is not ancient history. Today, India still pushes into Asia at a rate of 15 to 21 millimeters every single year. The mountains themselves are still actively growing. Deep beneath the surface, all this motion is channeled along the main Himalayan thrust, the master fault line where India drives underneath Tibet. Deep underground, the hot rock creeps smoothly, but closer to the surface, the fault is completely locked by friction. For decades or even centuries, these tectonic plates get stuck. The Earth literally bends, acting like a giant coiled spring that stores massive amounts of elastic strain. The modern growth of the Himalayas is not a graceful, continuous rise. It is a terrifying accumulation of kinetic debt. When that rock's friction is finally overcome, the spring snaps. The Earth violently slides forward to relieve the built-up pressure, triggering massive earthquakes. We see the devastating human consequences of this mechanical snap in real time, such as the tragic magnitude 7.8 Gorkha earthquake that leveled parts of Nepal in 2015. This map shows the topographical distribution and magnitude of historical earthquakes along the Himalayan fault line. It reveals a widespread, ongoing pattern of massive geological ruptures stretching across the entire mountain range. Yet large segments of the Himalayas, known as seismic gaps, haven't ruptured in over 500 years. These locked zones are holding massive amounts of unreleased energy, just waiting for the day they finally slip. The roof of the world is a dynamic, living machine. Born from a dead ocean and sculpted by the weather it controls, it operates today as a ticking clock of tectonic energy.